Hello. So let's start this session with the test automation challenges that we face. So first of all, there are people who like to learn test automation who wants to engage upon test automation in their career. So they will ask, how can I start my test automation career? First of all, I will just suggest that don't use IDE and record and playback. So these are not actual practiced in the organization or in the industry. So first of all, we had to learn test automation scripting to a specific language like Java, Python, Ruby, C Sharp. So what my suggestion is, get a language. For example, let's say Java, which is widely used. We can use Java, learn Java first, like the basic programming, if then else, select, for loops, and also file handling, how to handle arrays, how to handle loops, how to also know about object oriented concepts, how you can implement inheritance, overriding, overloading, that is polymorphism, and how to create abstract classes. So these are some things that we need to learn automation. And the other thing is, then after that we can move into Selenium and know about page object models, how to do data driven, how to invoke Selenium in different browsers, and a lot of things like this we can learn after learning the specific language. But we should not stop in one language, because the projects that we get in an organization will be varying in languages and also in tools. So that's why we some people will ask, what do I need to know, what tools do I need to know? Because Selenium is a web UI automation tool, we can go on other web services tools like Rest Assured, in terms of Java, and also Unirest. And we can also, if you want to learn .NET, you can go to REST Sharp or Unirest implementation of the .NET version of it. So you can go into these things and you can learn. And also the language also, once you learn Java, you should be able to flexible to go into other languages like C Sharp, Ruby, Python, which are also vastly used in the industry. So then the other thing is, we had to know what is expected from an automation professional. So today it's not like you get into a job like doing automating manual test cases to automated test cases using a tool. It's more than that. The industry demands, they demand you to come up with frameworks, and you had to come up with know a little bit of other libraries to like read a document in PDF or other reporting frameworks. So you should be able to come up with your own test automation framework according to what is needed in the project or the company. So learning Java is enough? No, you have to. Once you learn Java, you should be able to move into other languages like Python, Ruby, or .NET, because you cannot say that it will be always Java, Selenium kind of projects that you will get. You will get different kind of projects, like for example projects on robot framework, where you have to create your custom libraries using Python. Then creating XPath to a tool. So this is not a good way of doing, actually being automation professional, because these tools will create you a lazy person who won't be able to actually know what's beneath the creation of XPath. So my high suggestion is that sometimes these tools, XPath generated by these tools, might not work in a Selenium script. So it's the best way is to get a notepad and try to create your own test XPath, which you can. So you can do it very simply. I have released a video. So it's simply, you go to the get the tag, that is forward slash tag, and you put the @ sign for the attribute, and you put the attribute value. So this is demonstrated in a video. So you can traverse also with the by creating your own XPath. You can traverse with uh, on this traverse in the HTML DOM of a particular web page. So then another thing is ROI analysis. When we get a project to show the nice part of it to the client, we come up with this ROI, and we tell it's a positive ROI, so we can do the automation project. But whenever we start this project and we continue, we don't refer back to the ROI, and this ROI statistics will definitely change because our environment is very dynamic. We will get emergency bug fixes. If we have the automation suite, then we have to run it again and again when we have kind of emergency bug fixes. And if we have another new requirement, urgent requirement, we may have to run this automation. So the amount of entries, the executions that we come up for the ROI at the beginning will change. So therefore ROI is not a valued automation, like the criteria to select an automation project. It's not a valued kind of a factor to select an automation project. Next comes the POC. This is the important part. The POC, success of the POC depends on the success of your project. So the first thing that we had to do is we had to go through the customers, requirements, and liaise with the development team if we are starting from the scratch the development of the application. So then we had to get in liaise with the architect and know what is the technology that we use to determine what is the tool. So in the other way, if we have the application already, we should study the application as a whole, go through the existing test cases, see whether the existing test cases are so clarified, or if not, we have to get it clarified and see, go through this application, all the requirements, and see whether what kind of tool that we can use to it. And then the other thing is the POC for the automation framework. So you should know, you should look at what are the reusable actions that you can do, what kind of file methods that the client wants to use. Like for example, you want to do the data driven with a JSON file or an XML file or just Excel sheet or a text file. So you have to determine this in your POC. And the other thing, the second part of the POC is take the tool and automate some 5 or 6 major test cases and see whether this application is automatable and identify if there are elements that cannot be found or cannot be identified. So you have to identify all these bottlenecks before you engage on the real automation. Estimate is another thing. So estimations, we don't use standard like estimations that is provided by ISTQB or any other thing. So we use the way the developers estimate. So we look at the requirement and we look at how many reusable actions there are. So according to those reusable action, we can specify what are the elements involved and what kind of elements do we have to manipulate with the methods, and we can determine the code lines. So according to number of code lines that we had to do, and also according to your skill level, you had to give it some buffer time and do the estimations. So that's it for the part 1. Let's go with the part 2 of our webinar sessions on this test automation challenges that we face.